Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, especially here, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. You know, over the years, I've done a lot of fights here online, and I'm not sure if I have seen a better fight, certainly not in a unification match. This fight really is a masterpiece. It's such a good fight that I hope both of these guys don't fight each other in an immediate rematch. They'll have to fight each other eventually. But I'm hoping they don't fight each other in an immediate rematch, because both of these guys took a lot of punishment. And I want both of these guys to have long careers. Now let me say the official scoring on the fight was a draw. Whatever I say here, whatever my bias is, and I have biases, I'm going to upset a group of people, right? Because many of you believe that James DeGale won this fight. That was my prediction. Many of you believe that Badou Jack won this fight. In fact, people have left comments on my pre-fight video saying, Dwyer, be honest when you do the post-fight video, right? You need to acknowledge that Jack won the fight. So I'm in a position where I can't make people happy here, nor am I trying to. Let's just boldly go where the film takes us. Now let me say this. As I said, this fight is a classic. It doesn't get better than this. In my opinion, this is the best Badou Jack has ever been. In my opinion, this is the best James DeGale has ever been. This is that fight where as you're watching the fight, you're thinking to yourself, man, both of these guys are wildly exceeding my expectations. And understand, going into this fight, you know, I was thinking to myself, you know, James DeGale might be the very best in boxing. Certainly he's on the very short list. Now this is a how you think fight, right? Because it's a tale of two mismatches. There's a clear mismatch inside on hard body shots. Badou Jack looks like he isn't even in the same weight class as James DeGale. I have no idea how Badou Jack made 168 pounds. He looks heavier than James DeGale. He throws the harder punches. This is as if DeGale is fighting someone who is at least a light heavyweight. At least a light heavyweight. Right? And you can tell that Badou Jack's punches are short, they're devastating. Even as DeGale plays it off, DeGale gets hit with some murderous shots in this match. But they're so murderous that even though he has a cool look on his face as he backs away, you're feeling them as the action takes place. In the power department, it's a mismatch. Right? From the first round, it looks like Badou Jack is throwing the harder, stronger punches. What I want you to do is to think of Joe Louis. That's who comes to mind. The punches are short. Badou Jack is getting his entire body into it. Right? James DeGale, by contrast, is like a more open Ray Leonard. as you watch the first round, and the first round is must-see boxing, right? There's mastery in the first round. As you watch the first round, you realize that as good as Badou Jack is, right, looking like Joe Louis coming forward, he's a stronger guy, big puncher, there's a talent gap in this fight. It's a huge talent gap, right? There's a mismatch on the outside. James DeGale is dominant compared to Badou Jack in his ability to change direction, change styles, change angles, throw punches at weird angles, keep it together in a construct. Right? The first 90 seconds of this fight, as you're just looking at DeGale's movement, you understand you're seeing brilliance. In fact, this fight really gets us to that age-old question, doesn't it? Right? Of precision versus brilliance. Right? It's the argument, you have with old-timers when you're talking about Ella Fitzgerald, precise, versus Billie Holiday. Sometimes her voice is cracking. Sometimes she sounds like she's about to go off key. But yet it's riveting. It's original. It's excellent. Right? Let's talk about this in another context. In my opinion, it's the difference between a drum machine that's always on the money, right? It's, the beats are computerized, versus Keith Moon, a live drummer, right? Who might be all over the page. That signature makes it better, doesn't it? Right? In a different era, we would say this is the difference between Eddie Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix, right? The difference between Slick Rick, where the words almost always rhyme, and Jay-Z, where the words often don't, right? My bias, and it's clear as I watch this fight, as I scored this fight, my bias is toward the Billie Holiday brilliance, where the person is doing things their own way and it all fits together, right? Watching this fight, thought there was a talent gap here, and it showed up. DeGale has the faster hands. DeGale has the lighter feet. He's keeping Jack resetting his feet throughout the fight. I thought the first round, Jack's looking at him clueless. Has no clue for the first 90 seconds where DeGale is going to go, what DeGale is going to do next. Right? DeGale's doing an Ezra Charles thing, where he doesn't have his back up against the ropes. They actually say on the Showtime telecast, and let me give Showtime here, a 10 out of 10 rating. The boxing telecast was outstanding. I thought Paulie Malignaggi once again showed us why he's really the best in terms of analyzing fights. There's a disagreement on the telecast between Steve Farhood and Al Bernstein. Farhood has DeGale winning the fight. Right? Al Bernstein says, hey, not so close. This is a hard fight to score. Right? And of course, the guy, Mauro Riolo, I believe his name is just excellent at calling blow by blow. So let's just say the first round of me is emblematic of the fight. It's emblematic of my scoring of the fight. DeGale comes out, I'm looking at the lateral movement, I'm dazzled. I know what Badou Jack's going to do because he's like a machine, right? He's trying to shorten the distance. He's trying to throw body shots. He's coming forward like this. DeGale comes over here, Badou Jack turns. DeGale comes over here, Badou Jack turns. DeGale goes over here, Badou Jack turns. With DeGale, it's not so clear. Right? Sometimes he's circling this way, sometimes he's circling that way. Right? He's not landing jabs. But yet he's controlling the action and distance in the round. Then we get one of the best looking knockdowns of recent memory. right? DeGale's outside, just lowers his shoulder real quick. Straight left hand, hits Jack on the button, Jack goes down. At the end of the round, you're thinking, what am I going to do after this fight? What time is it? What plans do I have? This couldn't make it to the 7th round, right? DeGale's up 10-8 on my scorecard after the first fight. We get into the 2nd round. Al Bernstein says, one of the big differences here is hand speed. Right? You're looking at it, and Badou Jack, like Joe Louis, looks like he's in cement to me. Right? He's trudging along. He's like a tank. He's not sudden. Right? His range isn't as wide as DeGale's, because with DeGale, there's ring coverage, there's unpredictability. Right? The lateral movement just shows itself in round 2. DeGale, the guys themselves on Showtime have a good conversation about what I'll call DeGale slickness. The fact that DeGale doesn't allow you to set your feet. Right? DeGale, of course, doesn't have his back up against the ropes. In the middle of the ring, it's a mismatch. I gave the 2nd round to DeGale. We get to the 3rd round. Paulie Malignaggi says that Badou Jack is going to have to find a way to cut the ring off. Right? Let's just say it's becoming apparent at the start of the 3rd round. And DeGale's up by 3 here. 10-8, right? Knocked down in the 1st round. 10-9 in the 2nd round on my card. Right? It's obvious that Badou Jack is having a problem with DeGale's fluidity. Right? This is the difference between R&B, structure, and jazz. Right? John Coltrane, a guy weaving around a melody. Right? My favorite things. That song, if you know it. I gave DeGale the 3rd round. The 3rd round's controversial. Steve Farhood gave DeGale the 3rd round, but said it could have gone either way. Al Bernstein said this is a very close round here. So you know where I'm going with my scoring. I have DeGale up by 4 after 3 rounds. Now I understand there are other opinions, and I want you to leave those opinions in the comment section to this video, because this video is going to get even edgier. Right? I understand that Floyd Mayweather, who's involved in promoting Badou Jack, felt that Badou Jack was robbed. I'm just telling you that in the 4th round when they came out, again, there's a talent gap. Right? Badou Jack is fighting his best. It's just that he's dealing with angles. He's dealing with a guy who doesn't have to land jabs, can literally mix up hooks, crosses with uppercuts the entire round while he's moving. Right? But you notice in the 4th round, and the 4th round is key, that Badou Jack has shortened the distance between himself and James DeGale. You actually notice DeGale's back touching the ropes. So we get to round 5. Badou Jack starts landing murderous body punches on James DeGale, who has no body fat around his torso. Right? Murderous body punches. These are the body punches I'm talking about earlier, where the fighter can play it off. Right? Gets hit, and the fighter's like, you're watching the fight, your ribs are hurting. Right? You're watching the fight and you're saying, oh man, I'm tasting the food that I ate an hour ago. I'm amazed James DeGale was upright after taking some of these Badou Jack body shots. Right? Badou Jack is on him. James DeGale's movement now is being smothered. Now here again, controversial round. Steve Farhood gave the round to James DeGale. I didn't. I call the round a draw. In other words, DeGale's brilliance is such that he's getting hit with bombs. But he's doing so much other stuff in terms of controlling distance, lateral movement, coming in and landing good shots, getting back out, sometimes staying in, covering up his body, landing his own body shots, that I call the 5th round a draw. Now we get to round 6. And all I could think of looking at round 6 was, my God, right? Here is Jack the Ripper running through London. This is the best round I've ever seen an opponent have against James DeGale. DeGale is getting shellacked, right? And it's methodical. He's getting hit hard with devastating body punches, two-handed attack, right? And Jack is just relentless. In other words, DeGale at times backs away. Jack comes and finds him, right? This felt like you were watching a he can run but he can't hide Joe Louis clip. I'm looking at the 6th round and I thought, how is DeGale gonna make it to the 8th round? Right? DeGale's getting battered. As I said, this looked like a light heavyweight at least. Just working over the body of a super middleweight. Right? So, understand, right here it's a turning point in the fight. The 5th round on my card is a draw. Right? Farhood gives that to DeGale. I have the 5th round a draw. The 6th round is Jack Big. So we get to the 7th round. Now you can really tell a guy's character. You can really tell a guy's talents when he's under fire. Right? And James DeGale here is under fire. There are too many rounds left in the fight to run and hide. Right? Jack's already closed the distance and is battering James DeGale, especially to the body. I'm sure James DeGale today can't even lie down. His body gets hit with so many shots. So then they come out for the 7th round. I don't use the word masterpiece that often. The 7th round, simply put, is a masterpiece by James DeGale. As you're watching the round and you're seeing DeGale move around the ring and land shots and at times smother, you heard right, smother a guy who's bigger than him, who's working him over to the body, you understand that you're seeing a champion in the ring. Right? It's all there. James DeGale's hand speed, his pivoting, change of direction, his back foot game, it's staggering. His high percentage of power shots. Right? Jack, simply put, throughout the 7th round, in a fight in which he's making a big comeback, he's just had a big 6th round, Jack looks a bit slow in the 7th round. He just seems to be responding to what James DeGale is doing. Right? Total gut check. Then we get to the 8th round. Now here it looks like DeGale has run out of gas. Now if you're a DeGale critic, your argument is going to be, this isn't the first time I've seen DeGale run out of gas. Didn't he run out of gas against Lucien Boutte? Some would argue he ran out of gas against Andre Durrell only to get a second win late in the fight. In the 8th round, DeGale, who told Al Bernstein before the fight that he wasn't going to let his back touch the ropes, is literally having his back touch all 4 of the ropes. Right? He's just going from rope to rope to rope, Badou Jack looks like he's light years beyond James DeGale in terms of stamina. DeGale looks like he's out of gas. But even when he's out of gas, you notice that DeGale has some mastery in him. Somehow he throws what might have been the best punch of the fight other than the knockdown in the first round, and the knockdown that Jack gets in the 12th round, which is a great punch. In the 8th round, DeGale throws an uppercut. Folks, they downplay it on the telecast. That uppercut may have saved James DeGale in this fight. Understand, the 8th round is a Badou Jack round. Badou Jack is on a roll. James DeGale is struggling, right? Back against the ropes, back against the ropes. This big guy can't keep him off of me. Suddenly, DeGale throws an uppercut, right? In a round in which his mouthpiece comes out. That's how bad he's getting shellacked. DeGale throws an uppercut, and it slows Jack down. Don't get me wrong. I gave Jack the round. I didn't think DeGale won the round. But without that uppercut, I wonder privately whether DeGale makes it to the end of the 8th round. Right? That uppercut is masterful. It hits Jack. There's like a 10-second period there where Jack has to reorganize his thoughts. That's how good the uppercut is. And as you watch it unfold, just ask yourself, how many fighters would get off an uppercut in a moment like that? So we get to the 9th round, right? Here's where Farhood and Bernstein on the telecast have a conversation where they're talking about the scoring. And Farhood says, look, I have DeGale ahead. Bernstein disagrees with him. Right? Farhood says the 3rd and 5th rounds were close, but I gave them to DeGale. Bernstein disagrees with him, right? He's diplomatic. He says, hey, I believe Jack won some more rounds, right? But understand, in the 9th round, James DeGale, who to me was on the verge of getting stopped, but for an uppercut in the 8th round, comes out and does what champions do. He wins the 9th round. Right? Lateral movement makes. Now, I know the 9th round is going to be controversial. You can tell me why it's controversial in the comment section to this video. I don't believe you can go by CompuBox numbers in this fight, because a lot of the punches landed, you have to judge based on the quality of the punch. Right? There's some rounds where Badou Jack, to me, doesn't land that many quality shots, but wins the round because his punches are that much harder than DeGale's. There are other rounds where DeGale's timing is so exquisite that he literally freezes Badou Jack and is able to control everything in the round off some punch sequences. I thought DeGale wins the 9th round, much as he won many of the others, with lateral movement, unpredictability. He's outside, showing hand speed. He's inside, showing hand speed and smothering the guy who's trying to be deep in the pocket. So then we get to the 10th round. James DeGale continues the mastery. The first minute and a half of the round, James DeGale looks so good. You're looking at the fight and you're saying, wow, this is incredible stuff. But then the round turns. Badou Jack goes on a rampage where he continues to land very short, very hard body shots. Again, it looks like a guy from a different weight class. James DeGale looks like he's bluffing. There's no way a guy can take those body shots and not be badly hurt. Right? James DeGale's mouthpiece comes out again here. Right? Understand, DeGale loses teeth in this fight, at least one tooth in this fight. Right? Here, the mouthpiece comes out, it looks like for no reason. Right? Just understand, The battle is so pitched in round 10 that it's a tale of two rounds. James DeGale in the first half of the round, Badou Jack in the second half of the round. Now, I call this round a draw. I understand that there are arguments for both fighters with regard to this round. So we get to the 11th round. And I have to say, when there's a slow round, and this round's not that slow, right? But when both guys are a little bit diminished, that's when you see the talent gap. That's when you understand that James DeGale just understands the melody of boxing a little bit better than Badou Jack, right? Badou Jack is the guy who's doing 4 or 5 things well. James DeGale is the guy in the moment, right, who has mastered different styles of fighting and who can just do things. He looks tired at a moment, so he comes in and he leans on Badou Jack, then he lets his hands go. It's breathtaking. I don't know where DeGale got the second win from. I thought DeGale took the 11th round. So we get to the 12th round. Understand, at this point, I think it's DeGale's fight unless he gets stopped. Right, folks? He gets hit hard. He gets dropped hard. When I saw it, I didn't think he was getting up. He gets hit that hard. Let me say this too. If you're going to knock down James DeGale, this is the way to do it. DeGale comes inside. Now think about it. He's fighting Badou Jack, murderous inside puncher, and DeGale's skill level is such that he's inside. His head is right here. And Badou Jack leans into a right hand. First time in DeGale's career he goes down. He goes down hard. I mean hard. He gets up somehow. I don't know how, but he gets up. Then you can tell he's still a little dazed and confused because he doesn't clinch. Badou Jack lands at least one very hard shot as James DeGale is trying to clear his head. Now we talk about the heart of a champion. What I want you to do, what I want to call Exhibit A, is the last minute of this fight. Someone is going to have to explain to me how James DeGale is able to survive. Right? I've looked at it. I'm not even sure. But James DeGale, who to me is out on his feet for a portion of the 12th round, right? Out on his feet, somehow is able to, clinch Badou Jack, and I blame Badou Jack for this. Right? I blame Badou Jack for this. He's somehow able to clinch Badou Jack, who should have taken a step back, not allowed the clinching, knew that James DeGale's only chance of surviving the fight was to clinch him. Badou Jack should have knocked his hands down, stayed away, and then jumped in, right, episodically, not given James DeGale an opportunity to hold him. Should have made sure DeGale was away from the ropes where he couldn't lean on the ropes, in the middle of the ring. Badou Jack could have won this fight. He came this close. But instead, James DeGale is able to clinch him multiple times. He's able to weave and clear his head to the point where in the last 10 seconds of the fight, it's DeGale who's winging punches, right? The last round is clearly a 10-8 Badou Jack round. Now, if you're a boxing fan who is biased toward Joe Louis, right? Hard, short punches, methodical, seek and destroy guy, comes forward, right? relentless, to the point where the relentlessness is predictable. If you're that fan, I can see how you could look at this fight and believe that Badou Jack deserved the decision. But if you're someone like me, if you're someone who listens to the opening bars of Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze, it's a little muddy. No rules apply. It's a little bit too loud, right? It's, a lot of energy all over the place, a little bit unfocused. But yet it's brilliant, right? If you listen to Billie Holiday sing Strange Fruit and you think, oh my God, right? It's like this is art, right? It's not connect the dots. This is outside the box. Then this match was James DeGale's, right? Officially, it goes down as a draw. I gave DeGale the first round 10-8, the second round, the third round, the fourth round, the 7th, 8th, and 9th rounds, and the 11th round. I gave Badou Jack the 6th round, the 8th round, and the 12th round, which I call the 10-8 round. I called the 5th round and the 10th round draws. Right? If you give those rounds to Badou Jack, then this fight is a lot closer. But understand my take. Badou Jack was the stronger man in the ring. He's the harder puncher in the ring. He landed the more meaningful body shots in the ring. But there's a talent gap here. Right? James DeGale can fight inside. He landed some body shots in the fight that were pretty good. Right? But James DeGale can also fight outside. And when James DeGale was outside, changing direction, keeping Badou Jack guessing, I thought the fight was a mismatch. There's a round here, and I thought it was interesting. I think it's the beginning of the 6th round, where Paulie Malignaggi makes, to me, the best analysis of the fight. He says, there's something about James DeGale where he's not satisfied with changing direction, keeping the other guy guessing, being effective on the outside. There's something about him that's personally offended when the other fighter tries to walk him down. Right? So DeGale, rather than stay outside and bank rounds, right, has a need to trade with Badou Jack. Simply put, it almost cost him the fight. I still don't know how he gets up off the canvas in the 12th round, especially when that's the first time he's been down in his career. But yes, I thought James DeGale won this fight. I think the draw is something that gives the fight an extra glow, because we, the boxing public, are going to be split on this one, and we're going to always argue about who deserved it. I noticed some people here on YouTube are posting photos of James DeGale's mouth missing some teeth. Right? The idea is, look how beaten up James DeGale looks after the fight, and he did get beaten up. But as you watch this fight, and understand, it's a draw. DeGale wasn't awarded the decision. I want you to just ask yourself the question of who in the sport has more skills than this. Right? I understand boxing's tribal. I know there's a Terrence Crawford crowd. I hear you. Right? I know there's a Golovkin crowd. I hear you. I know there's a crowd that loves jabs. They're going to say, Dwyer, how could you compare DeGale to a more open Ray Leonard when Ray Leonard had a great jab? Right? I hear you. Just understand, though, that as you watch this fight, this is boxing at its best. Right? It's a highly skilled fighter against a guy with big-time power, excellent defense, right? Badou Jack's defense was tremendous. right? A guy who, is a Joe Louis type. There's a formula, a success formula. He stays within his envelope, right? So if you like that style of boxing, you're going to see this fight for Badou Jack, right? If you prefer jazz to R&B, right? If you prefer Hendrix to Van Halen, if you're looking at, an artist who, Jackson Pollock, then the fight isn't that close. It's a James DeGale fight. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. My advice to both of these men, because understand, this is such a classic that whatever happens in their careers, we're going to have a rematch sometime down the road. My advice to both of these guys is both of your reputations have been greatly helped by this fight. I suspect both of these guys need to leave 168 pounds, right? I know Callum Smith is out there and they're talking about DeGale against him. Okay, fair enough. But I suspect both of these guys will ultimately end up at 175 pounds. Take a couple of fights fighting opponents that don't match your style, like your opponent here did, right? Make boxing a marathon. Cash a few more checks before you get back in the ring against each other, right? This fight, although officially a draw, is actually a win for both men, right? If I were both men, I would look for easier paydays. Give my body a chance to heal, right? If I'm James DeGale, figure out a solution for your missing teeth now, right? I mean, clear your head. Not every fight has to be this much of a classic. Give yourself some time out of the ring. Give yourself time against opponents who aren't as tough as you are to each other. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.